are going live. Hello everyone, welcome to Trackside with Tom. My name is Tom Hogan, and I am the owner and operator of Steel Highway Railcams, and I have with me here today Shawn Hoppert. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly. I should have asked you before we went on the air how you pronounce your last name. Is it Shawn Hoppert?
Yes, sir. You got it right on the money.
All right. So Shawn is here with us today to talk about the New Berlin swap meets and train shows that he's going to put on over the course of the summer and this fall as well. So we're looking forward to that. And hello everyone that is on here. We've got about a dozen people online right now. And you know, the audience builds as we go along here. So we are going to start right out though. And we're going to play, Shawn provided me a little bit of a promotional trailer, which I believe this can be found on Facebook as well. Do you want to tell them about where to find your show on Facebook?
Yeah, if you go on Facebook and you just search New Berlin Model Swap, you'll come up with a group in the search bar, and you'll be able to see this on there. It's also on Facebook Reels, and it's also on YouTube.
All right. So we're going to play this quick. I did mute the volume on it. But these are the dates that they've got coming up, and this is your venue.
This is the facility, yep.
And we're going to get to see, I have some still images that I downloaded also, but we have just a massive facility. And there you can kind of see the scope of it. You're up on a catwalk looking down, but it's just a huge, huge area. Now, do you know, are they going to pick up that turf? Or is that you're going to be on the turf with the tables?
We'll be on the turf with the tables. They said tables and chairs won't be an issue. They have like cheerleading competitions, gymnastic competitions with stuff and bleachers down there. So they said it's not an issue. And I'm actually up on the basketball courts. They actually have 4 basketball courts that are elevated above the offices, conference rooms, stuff like that look out over the field. So it's actually really cool.
Yeah. All right, so, and there's your email address, which is, let me back that up here just a little bit. It was the New Berlin, hang on a second, New Berlin Model Swap at gmail.com. Right, yep. So if you want more information, you can contact them there. So I'm going to pull up some of these still photos. This will be first. So, tell us a little bit about how you arrived at this, why you're putting this on. This is obviously the first year you're doing it. So, talk us through a little bit of the process of actually putting on a swap meet.
So first I just did it kind of for fun, just to kind of dip my toes in the water and see if this is something I was interested in. And January 8th, I held a small swap meet just down the road from this facility, actually. If you go down National Avenue, half a mile, take a right, drive another half mile, you'd be at the VFW I started at. We had 33 tables and just about 160 people, a little over that, in attendance. I was really happy. All my vendors seemed to have a really good time. Sales seemed like they were doing pretty good. Everyone seemed like they had fun coming in there. I had several compliments from people on the way through, trying to keep table prices reasonable and admission reasonable for people. When we booked the next event, I got a call from the venue saying, hey, baseball season's starting up. You're not going to get the whole parking lot. And I said, well, that's not going to work out. So I had to find a new facility, and everything was booked. So I stopped here. This is the Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin Indoor Sportsplex. And they've got a massive parking lot. They just added onto it. They've got about 700 stalls now. And I thought, you know what, this would work. It's close to my last facility, so I can forward people if I need to from that facility, if people still have that location. And then it's right off the interstate. It's a half mile off I-43 going north on Racine Avenue. And I just walked in, and hey, what do you guys think about this? And I must have talked to the right person that day, because they said, hey, come talk to Dan, he'll help you out. And I pitched a couple ideas. I said, I think this can work out for everyone. I think we can have a lot of fun doing this. And he said, let's go. And my initial idea was that I would have 60 tables, so I'd essentially double in size for my first event. And we almost immediately had a waiting list. some of my vendors that I carried over from before, which I've only got one vendor that's not coming from the first event just because it sounds like he doesn't know what he's going to have yet. Um, and most of them brought people with them for the next event. And so I've actually got 39 vendors for April, and we have 150 tables, and I think we only have 20 left available after this weekend. So we've got a pretty good sized swap meet for a $5 admission. And the court that we're looking at right now, this is half of the football field. So we're going to have probably half of this field full of tables, at least half of this side of the field just filled with tables for a swap meet. There'll probably be a couple of, smaller layouts available to check out, but more or less for like testing purposes, not so much for, families and kids to enjoy. But the show in November, we'll have the whole football field, both sides, the entire baseball diamond, and all of the cement space that you see in these photos are going to have vendors. They're going to have layouts. We're going to have stuff for everyone to check out. I'm working on some clinics for weathering and backdrop painting. I'm going to see if I can get someone to help out with DCC and sound installs for people who want to learn about that. We've also got some museums. In fact, East Troy is going to be at all the swap meets, it sounds like, so I'm really excited to see that and kind of help get some of the not-for-profits involved and help them grow and expand a little bit.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your location. So you're in New Berlin, Wisconsin. So you are in the western suburbs of Milwaukee. And
Yep.
we have quite a few of obviously, we've got webcams in Wisconsin, right? But we're kind of based over here in eastern Iowa, but there's a lot of viewership that's in that Wisconsin, northern Illinois, Minnesota, Iowa area. So you're just outside of Milwaukee. You're within like 3-4 hours driving time of the vast majority of the people that we're catering to here in the first place. So yeah, when you look at these, because you've got 3 dates for swap meets, these are going to be 1-day swap meets?
Yeah, these the swap meets, and that's one of the things I was kind of struggling with differentiating between the 2-day event and the 1-day events. The 1-day events are swap meets, so it's more of a modeler-driven event where you can come in, buy, sell, trade, a typical swap. Whereas the train show is going to have a little bit of everything for everyone, so it's a little bit more family-oriented. But the plan is I have access to 400 tables for swaps or for model trains for sale and display along with the layout. So we've got a pretty good amount of space and I think a pretty good venue to put this on with.
Awesome. And so the reason I point out it's a 1-day show, but they're on Saturdays, and it is a driving range, right? That 3-4 hour distance, people travel that far for these model train shows all the time over the course of the summer. So it's totally doable for everyone in these neighboring states to get out there.
Yeah, and it's they're actually on Sundays. We do have setup available on Saturday evenings after 7 o'clock for the April event, mostly just for the people who are coming out of town. I've got multiple people coming from Minnesota. If I'm not mistaken, we have someone coming from Michigan, Illinois, and there's a gentleman I talked to that was thinking about coming from Ohio. So it'll be interesting to see, where people actually end up all from. But I know for the train show in November, it's got a pretty good reach. But right now we've got 15,000 flyers I've printed just for April, in I believe 9 states. So while I don't expect people from Texas, it's an opportunity for people who might be in the area or to see the events that are coming up. With 150 tables, that's a pretty good size event for a swap. So it might be a great opportunity to find some rare stuff or to sell some rare stuff.
Yeah. So now let's talk a little bit. I'm going to pull up your Facebook page here, actually, and we're going to talk about the different dates that you have assigned for all these so that people know exactly when you are planning this. So I'm literally putting in New Berlin Model Train and Swap Show. And I'm going to pull this over here so people can see it. So this is what you're looking for when you're looking at searching for this on Facebook. And you've got your events over here. So the first one coming up, April 23rd. And this is a swap meet.
Yeah, all the dates on here are just the swap meets, and those are the one-day events on Sundays. Uh, but the 9 to 1, a lot of people have asked me about that. You've got 150 tables for 4 hours. When I first started putting out this flyer, the idea was that I would have 60 tables, and so I figured 4 hours. That's what a lot of swap meets. I feel like those are the peak hours, and so going forward, we're going to have 9 to 3. And as long as people are coming in the door and buying stuff, I think we'll keep the doors open. But that's the first thing people point out now. But from my first meet, at least we have the hours on it now.
Right, right. So if I look at your other photos here, you've got another one coming up in July.
Yep.
So July 16th. And are you just doing these quarterly? One in April, one in July, one in September?
That was the idea. I see a lot of, the regular monthly swap meets, and I see the attendance numbers and stuff and the amount of tables, and it's just like it's a lot of effort, and the people who put those on are dedicated people, and I just don't have that kind of time. So I thought, if I'm going to do this, I think I'll do quarterly. You can get a little bit bigger draw, you can get a few more tables in there, and the support that I've had from local clubs, from other venues. Titletown this last weekend was very welcoming. It was great to work with Todd. The Lionel Club located in New Berlin, the Milwaukee Lionel Club that is located in New Berlin. They have a regular swap meet there, and they've been so helpful getting the info out, drawing in more vendors, and I think it kind of goes both ways. I can help support them. They help support me. They've been awesome. I can't thank them enough. And the local hobby shops too, and all of my vendors. I would not be able to get these flyers where I go without them. So
Yeah.
most of the events I've done recently, I was in Alaska a few weeks ago. I was in Titletown this last weekend. And when I got out there, my flyers were already at other tables. They were out on the flyer table that's out by the entrance and the exit. So it's awesome that my flyers are actually beating me to most of these places.
That is amazing, actually. That's it's growing legs of its own. Yes.
Yeah. And again, I have to thank my vendors. I think I've got the best vendors you could ask for, because they're taking these flyers, they're going to where they're going, they're talking to other vendors, they're talking to their customers about it. And that's going to be what drives this show is, the word of mouth. I mean, you can do so much now with social media these days, but especially for vendors and table sales, that's where it's at. It's just I can go around all day and say, hey, I've got a swap meet. Do you want to sell there? Well, that's great. Congratulations. We'll see how the next one turns out. But when you've got, a dozen vendors that are saying, hey, you got to check this out. This is something. This is cool. That means the world to me, and it makes my life easier. And I'd say that's where the bulk of the table sales have been, is just from other vendors.
That's great. So I've had each of your flyers up here individually. We're on the last one now, but I showed everybody the dates that you had, the date in April and one in July and one in September. And these are the dates for the 2-day show, November 11th and 12th. And just to mention briefly, so you're taking this weekend in November 11th and 12th that was previously held by another train show that was in Milwaukee, and they aren't on this year, so you're taking that weekend instead.
Yes, and it's been a trip, especially the last couple months. Especially in Madison at the Mad City Train Show, as I'm going around talking to vendors and talking to people like, hey, check this out. I've got a new event. I'd love to see you there. We've got tables and space for exhibitors. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's Train Fest weekend. I said, well, if you look on their website, Train Fest is not scheduled for this year. And they're talking how this summer they'll have information for 24. And a lot of people, I was the one, bearing the bad news. But more people are aware now, and we've got some really good momentum with this show in November. I'm really excited. For all of my events, we're not charging for parking. All of the swap meets this year are $5 admission. The train show this year is $10 admission. And of course, kids 12 and under are free. I don't think it says that on the
It doesn't say it on there, but
yeah,
they'll find out when they show up, and you only charge them for the adults. Yes.
Yes, and one thing we are asking is as many people who can to carpool, just to kind of save on space a little bit, because we've got vendors and their trailers and stuff like that will be parking, and just a part of the environmental movement. But I'm
Sure.
really excited to see how this goes. We're right off the interstate, as you can see on the picture there. That's I-43. We're just about 15 minutes southwest of Milwaukee. There's hotels in the area for vendors and people who want to spend the weekend. But I'm really excited. I think it's going to be an awesome show. We've got some beautiful layouts signing up, and I'm really excited.
So if anyone has questions for Shawn about the model train show or the swap meets that they're doing, you can put them in the comments here. And I'm watching. We got 27 people online with us right now. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm talking with Shawn Hoppert, for those of you that got here a little late. And he is the coordinator of this New Berlin model train show. And so you said that you have 120 tables sold for your event in April. And do you have a cap, like, or would you just keep selling tables until people stop buying them?
So I have 150 tables available, and we have 20 tables left. So it means I have 130 tables sold. And it's $20 for a single, 15 each for multiple. And we've got people coming from Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois. I think we've got someone coming from Michigan and all over Wisconsin. But yeah, no, that is their cap for this event is 150. So on top of renting the facility, I'm renting the tables. So I have to kind of be careful how often I try to add more to it, because there might not be any available. So if I wait too late to order the tables, we might not have enough. So I have to order it, see what we do, and then see if I can order more later.
All right. And then how many tables do you have sold for this 2-day event in November already?
So for the 2-day event, I'm selling that in two different ways. I'm selling tables and I'm selling square feet. And I'm just pulling up my spreadsheet here. So we've got 87 tables sold and over 1,000 square feet sold. So we've got over a quarter of the show spoken for via people who are paying in advance and whatnot, and other people who are waiting to see what the April event is like, mostly to check out the facility, see what the viability is for them, because it's a turf field. And, you can see maybe in the back corner of the facility in this picture, there's an overhead door there. And that's the only overhead door that we have. Otherwise, it's coming in through the man doors. So it is going to be unique to start off in this facility and see how things go. We've got a lot of people that are telling me that they're going to see what it's like in April, and then they'll confirm from there, see how things read out and how things progress. But I'm feeling very good about it. We're doing a lot of advertising. I've got a quarter-page ad in the Cowcatcher for the April event. I'll be doing more podcasts and advertising, radio ads, and streaming ads for the November show.
All right. Well, that is very exciting. And it doesn't appear that anyone took up my opportunity to ask you any questions. So I will just point out that Steel Highway is going to have a presence at the swap meets and at the train show. Actually, G. Mitchell, who we had on the program about a month ago, is going to be up there manning the first couple of tables, and then I will be up there for the 2-day show in November. So awesome. Definitely looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a great weekend.
Absolutely. Now, as I understand, you've got a few Railcams in the area that we're going to be taking a look at. Let's check those out.
Yeah, we're close this. Here we go. Steel Highway. This is what we're looking for. So we may as well start right up in your neighborhood. Well, it's not exactly your neighborhood, but just a little bit to the north of you there, up in Neenah. And I don't know why I'm having to scroll down a little ways here, but there it is. We're going to find Neenah. So if anyone has timestamps, we're going to go around the webcams in Wisconsin and also East Dubuque. I know that somebody sent me a timestamp from East Dubuque we're definitely going to look up later. But if anybody's got timestamps from Neenah, Stevens Point, Trempealeau, or East Dubuque that they want to share, those are the webcams that we're going to hit up today. And so, yeah, we're here in Neenah, about, 60 or so miles north of you?
Yeah, probably. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Now, is this Canadian National or is this the Foxy?
This is the CN. The Foxy splits off further north from what we're looking at, the CN yard right here.
Okay.
And the Foxy splits off further to the north from this location.
Gotcha. The last time I remember being around here, I remember seeing some old Bud RDC cars. I think they're converted to track inspection vehicles. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, the CN does have a stainless steel inspection car that they run around with. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Self-propelled. Yep. I thought that I saw one of the CN switch engines. One of the things that we always look for on the on these webcams when we go around the CN is finding these switch engines that they have that are unrepainted.
Oh, that's gonna be beautiful. Oh, there's one there. That's repainted. But I wonder if that's EJ&E or if that's IC.
We're gonna see here in a moment. That's an IC switch engine.
Yeah.
Looks like an IC Jeep 38 if I had to guess. But, yeah, yard job obviously, coming back with box cars, probably paper products up there in Neenah. Shoving back into the yard. But we need to find, switch engines are great, but we got to find ourselves a mainline train here. Oh, well, here's the same switch engine going here. So here he's going out. They go down, this would be going south. And they go down south of the yard to switch a customer down there. And sometimes you can see him coming out for headroom under this bridge. And then, so here he's literally going south to switch the customer. And then we just saw him in the reverse order, but shoving back into the yard. Probably with the empties that came out. But there is that IC switch engine once again. So let's back up a little bit further and see what we can find for some actual mainline action. You know, sometimes you do get these long dead spells.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just part of rail fanning, right? No matter where you go out there and you think you're going to get train after train after train. And sometimes it's like, nope, the railroads just decided we're not running trains today. But I did.
Oh, go ahead.
I did find one here. I just got to back up. He stopped in front of the camera. I got to back up far enough to get him arriving.
I think the last time I was up in the area, actually rail fanning, there was a train coming through. I think it was going north, and I just remember this loud noise, and I was just like, that's not quite right. And you could see the hose, the train line hose between the cars was dragging and had caught at the intersection or the crossing, and that it was just making the worst noise. I think just another 100 feet away, let go, and you could hear the brakes and everything, and the train stopped, and had to walk it and figure out what it was. So there are definitely some repairs that had to be made for that one.
All right, well, we found a northbound. A CN 100 unit there going by, second out. And this would be, I believe this is a stacks and racks type of train that we've got here. Because we've got, I'm pretty sure I saw auto racks toward the rear of it, but we've got all these well cars, JB Hunts, Maersk. We've got international and we've got domestic containers. Very much a mixed bag here. And here comes the auto racks. You know, the auto racks are always fun because you get all kinds of fallen flags out of these auto racks.
Yeah. I know up here in Duplainville, you get some pretty colorful combinations of those auto racks.
Uh-huh. That head one was a BNSF auto rack where they've got the the ends painted orange, actually. And here comes our newest fallen flag, the KCS, going by.
I think there's a lot of KCS cars out there. I think we're going to see those for quite a while.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
so, what are these yellow ones at the TTX on the side? Is that a newer design? Because that looks like it's got fewer, I guess, grates on the side, the fluted siding.
Right. I don't know for sure. I know that you see those sometimes. They don't have any railroads reporting marks, right? They're obviously lease cars, but they have they do have a different design to them, and they occasionally you'll see them also as articulated. Articulated auto racks as well.
And that's what I thought it was at first, and I saw the gap, and then there's no truck in the middle. Now, what is this red one right here? That almost looks like an old C&W or an old Sioux. That dark red one.
I think that was an SP. That was an SP auto rack that's been graffitied over pretty badly.
And then here's a white one. You don't see any markings on it.
Yeah.
And then I love this graffiti. I love that like billboard graffiti that takes up the whole side of the car. I just love that stuff.
Somebody was really committed when they did that. That guy they were working on that all night.
Yeah. And they probably had a ladder. I'm sure that they had a ladder.
Yeah. So, otherwise, UP, CSX, BNSF, nothing too exciting here. I did see a green BN auto rack go by earlier. Those are becoming increasingly rare.
I wonder if they're all patched for BNSF, or if there's some that still just have the TTX or the DTTX on the car and then the BN on the body.
I don't know. This one definitely still had the BN Herald on it.
Nice.
Like the slanted BN lettering.
Oh, that's got to be cool.
Yeah, I saw that float by here earlier, and let's see here. I did see there was a CP hopper that went by that looked like that it had just the black CP logo instead of the red background. Here's an SP. Here comes one that's not graffitied. A Southern Pacific auto rack.
Oh, that's really clean. There's just a little bit on the corner. And that Southern Pacific logo is in really good shape.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Couple more KCSs there. I'm going to shout out to some of the people that are here that have checked in. We've got Barry up in Butler Junction, and Michael Richmond and John Boulot, Cliff McFerrin over in West Liberty. John actually is our most recent subscriber to the Steel Highway magazine. He just put an order in for a magazine and a hat last night, so thank you, John. And we got DPU. What do we have here? Looks like a GE. Yeah.
What I think is I found out to be really interesting when I moved to Waukesha and I started seeing CN instead of seeing CP in Oak Creek and Sturtevant was I think CN's the only railroad to have a red light on the back of the locomotive or the front, depending on what direction it's going, for DPU service if it's at the end of the train. So it actually has a marker light on the platform.
Yeah, some of them do, yes. Ferromex, there's another fallen flag for you. Those are making their way up here by way of the KCS, I'm sure. And what is this? This one says Hourglass, I think. That's interesting. I've not seen an Hourglass. I'm not sure if I'm reading that quite right. But this guy is kind of dragging his feet going through here. I don't know if he's on an approach or a restricting signal, what the story is. So, yeah, we've got Cliff McFerrin, Yardmaster, Stephen Kern, Jeeper Preacher, Daniel Swanson, Ian up in Minnesota, Jack B. Quick, Tyler's Kansas Train Videos, and greetings from Chris in Wausau, Wisconsin, a little further north from you. And Trainmaster, Buchanan Farms. Oh, updates on cams in Central Illinois. I don't have any updates right now. Right now, the next one that I'm working on is actually going to be up in Minnesota, but we'll talk about that later. And, oh, Mark. Hello, Mark. How are you doing? C-Train, Zach Bovitz. Mark must be on his lunch today that he's joined us. There's some more tall lettering for your...
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that supposed to be a VEK, do you suppose?
I think so. You know, I'm not. I'd love to have someone who knows like all the graffiti because there's some different words and stuff that. But I think my favorite part is being a guy who models basically Milwaukee Road. You don't see this back then, but I love having the newer auto racks and the intermodal cars because you see some awesome artists. You see some really beautiful graffiti that, you know, I think qualifies as genuine art.
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you, the other thing, too, is you're actually taking totally the opposite approach of most rail fans, which is, why is there all this graffiti on the rail cars, right? You're 180 degrees away from that, and I can totally respect that. We've, doing this program now for the last 6 months that I've been doing it, we see some really amazing graffiti sometimes. We saw, on the UP, we saw, I think it was a boxcar that had full-on Darth Maul with double-bladed lightsaber painted on the side of a boxcar, and it was just fantastic looking.
Oh, and you know, there's probably some Star Wars nerds working on the railroad that are like, okay, we're going to make sure we keep this as long as possible.
Do not bad order this car. Do not send it to get repainted.
Well, I know what's interesting. So I live a stone's throw away from the tracks here in Waukesha, and you can ask everyone who lives around Waukesha. You never take Sunset if you're in a hurry because a CN train will hold you up for, well, it'll make you late for work more often than not.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is I've noticed some very similar, if not the same graffiti multiple times. I don't know much about rail fanning and how the railroads actually work with some of the details. Will you see the same well cars back and forth time and time again on those lines?
Oh, yeah. Because what will happen is they'll get into what's called captive service. And sometimes it's intentional and sometimes it's accidental. But you'll have cars that will literally just start getting shuffled between 2 points because of the loading and unloading pairs. And they just get caught in that cycle, and they'll do that for months sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I kind of figured that's how it might be. I found a plastic pellet hopper that came through Waukesha, or it might have been Duplainville. I just remember I got the picture, and it was like this monster on the side, and it was like black and orange. It was really cool. And then I happened to see it in Appleton when we were hanging out with some friends, and I was like, wait, hold on, turn around, go back, and these aren't like trained people, so they're like, why are we turning around in this industrial park? And I'm like, I gotta see that car, and I snagged a picture, and I was like, it's either the same artist or it's the same car. And so I dug through my thousands of photos from rail fanning and stuff in the area, and I found it, and it was the same car number. And I asked my buddy like a month later, I said, any chance you've seen that car there again? He's like, yeah, I see it like every other week. So it's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, Barry actually, so Barry is a former railroad employee. He came up with the correct term that I couldn't come up with, which is pool cars. The customer has a pool of cars that go in and out of there, and if the customer, sometimes they only have one destination that they load for. So they'll literally get caught in this back and forth pool service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's got to work out. You don't have to worry about cleaning the car, washing it out for different chemicals or powders or aggregates.
That's exactly right. And we see, so here in eastern Iowa, we have the CN down here also. We'll see cars that get loaded and unloaded in Cedar Rapids that'll end up going through central Wisconsin on their way up to Canada to get reloaded, for instance. Like potash would be a good example. And we see examples of that all the time with the CN in eastern Iowa versus going up through Wisconsin to Canada. Yes.
Yeah. Now, I remember when I was working third shift here in Waukesha, I remember seeing these massive, like I couldn't even keep track of counting, these center beam trains empty.
Yeah. So they go up to Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia. They go up to Canada, get reloaded.
Okay.
They go through, where is it? International Falls, I believe, is where the CN crosses from North Dakota into Canada on their way to Winnipeg.
Okay.
And yes, those get reloaded with lumber. Some of it does get loaded in northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin as well. But quite a bit of it is Canadian lumber also.
All right.
And actually, I'm going to interrupt you here real quick before this guy pulls out of view. I believe that these are wood chip cars, it looks like. You see
That's what I was just going to say, because it doesn't look like scrap metal. It's too small.
No, I think these are wood chip cars that are these TPPX open top hoppers.
And it looks very, very similar to the ones that Walters produced for Burlington, Northern Milwaukee Road, Northern Pacific, etc. At first, I thought maybe they were similar to the trash guns and scrap guns that Otter Valley just produced and started putting out.
No, I think those are wood chip cars. But again, we're talking about lumber products going south toward Chicago. You got some steel coil. If you look down here on the bottom, there's actually one of these higher steel coil cars that's got more of the rectangular roof on it versus the true curved roof that you would normally see.
Yeah. Now, Akron's doing those, I think, coming out soon, or a variation that's very similar to those. For Norfolk Southern and some of the other railroads. Now, what's the big difference between like the cars on the sides and the one in the middle? Is it just they're bigger coils, so it's a shorter car and a higher hood?
Yeah, I think it's just the amount of what they can fit underneath of that hood. Yes. Because the ones with the lower sides and the truly like semicircular top, those would fit perfectly over traditional steel coils.
Yeah. So I wonder if they're stacking the coils vertically then in those more squared.
Well, they could be. They could also be putting plate steel under there. They could be putting something that's more rectangular in shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never thought of that because I always see that on like your bulkhead flat cars.
Right. And sometimes they care if the steel is exposed to the elements, and sometimes they care if it's under a hood so it doesn't rust or get oxidized. So it totally depends on what they're trying to accomplish with that.
So now what we're seeing here with the wall cars on the end.
These single stacks.
Yeah, those look like they've got tarps over them.
They do. I noticed that also. I don't have an explanation for that. If anybody knows why we would have containers with tarps over the top.
And 20-foot containers at that.
Right.
I wonder if that could be more wood chips or products.
I suppose it could be. It'd make it easier to load and unload, as opposed to having to use the gates on the end of the car.
Yeah.
That's possible. Yep.
And then easy to move it out of the car so you can take it and store it somewhere if you need to.
Yeah, I have not seen that before. When they first pulled up, I just assumed that usually you see single stacks and you think, okay, well, there was a bridge clearance somewhere. There was a tunnel clearance somewhere. So they only had single stacks, and then they just got added to another train later on where that wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So with this, you know what? Pointing that out, I was going to ask if this is like a PSR train where you've got like mixed freight and intermodal, but I'm wondering if that's not considered intermodal if it's not doing standard container service, if it's going to a smaller customer, not just an intermodal yard.
Well, it could be. I don't know exactly where they... Oh, trash cars. They're saying those are trash.
Okay.
With the covered tops.
So where would those be coming from or going to, if anyone knows? I'd be very curious.
Well, so we have one camera in Bergenfeld, New Jersey. And it's shared with another outfit called Big Trains TV, I believe. But we dual stream it with him. And we do get trash trains coming out of Selkirk Yard near New York City that go down the CSX and go to literally they have these big green containers on them that are full of garbage, and that's how they're moving trash out of the city. Yes. So this could be something similar, but coming from a different location, potentially.
Okay.
Oh, NS 4004, 9:55 a.m. At East Dubuque. We're gonna have to go check that out a little bit later.
Absolutely.
Oh, cold reduced coil must be covered. Hot rolled steel does not have to be covered.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good... I didn't notice that before. Thank you, Barry. These cars are placarded. Look at that. They've got the diamonds on the side.
Yeah.
That's... Yeah. Placarded. Hazardous waste garbage. That's exactly what it is. And that's why, with those tarps, that's why they're single stacked.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So does that mean the 40-foot containers that like scale trains produce that I don't really see them too often around here? Is that trash too, or is that could just be any other?
Well, there are.
Procedure?
We've seen 40-foot containers of trash too. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. All right. We're gonna roll by one more train here. We're actually going to see this guy that he was parked on the siding for the last two trains that we rolled by. We're actually going to see him arrive here. If I didn't skip too far ahead. I think oh, well, there's southbound. So there's your loads of lumber that you're talking about going south.
Yeah.
But loaded with the tarps on them. And it looks like that might be a load of like aluminum ingots maybe.
Yeah.
So that's kind of unique. And I think I see a headlight way down there in the distance. So this is main line and siding here at Neenah. So we do get meets, and a lot of times trains that have to work the yard park on the siding so that overhead traffic can pass by. So what else do we have for comments here? Oh yeah, weight can also sometimes mean the containers are single stacked. Yes. Containers of garbage, that's right. Occasionally they use old containers at trash movers. Yep. And Larry Osborne and Roger Snare, they're talking about Washington State seeing trash containers out that way also. Some of that lumber car is missing half of its tarp. All right.
Might be lower grade lumber too.
Yeah, these Richardson hoppers. This is something that we were talking about earlier, where those will they may show up down in Cedar Rapids here.
I've been seeing more and more of those. You know what I haven't seen in a while is those green and Corbasta cars.
Yeah.
I used to see those every once in a while.
And then you've got these round-sided Canadian wheat board hoppers also. There's a Quaker Oats down here or Canadian grain board hoppers. Yeah. Those are getting all pulled out of service. Apparently they're being retired.
What? Those are my favorites.
The cylindrical-sided Canadian grain board hoppers, they're end of life.
That's crazy. Well, if you think about back when those were produced, what, in the early 60s?
Yeah.
I mean, and they made thousands upon thousands of them, all to the same stats with, because it was all basically for,
it was all moving Alberta and Saskatchewan wheat. Yes.
Yeah, and weren't they owned by the government initially?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. That's why they were referred to as the Canadian grain board hoppers. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
But they're all end of life, and they're getting retired here in the next whatever number of years.
Well, I hope that means we're going to see some interesting redesigns and some interesting hoppers coming up, because I see like a lot of the throttle covered hoppers, like the one that just went by there, those gray ones, you see a lot of those getting patched for smaller lines and for leasers. It's nice to see them. It almost be a shame if they're all smooth side like this. It'd be getting kind of boring.
Yeah. These
Look at this guy.
rib-sided ones.
That guy's an old local, isn't he?
Uh-huh.
Red with the white end.
Yeah, that's right. So,
There's some graffiti.
all right. We are going to jump. Oh, there goes the track inspector, too, driving by on the highway. So we're going to jump over to Stevens Point next. And while I'm bouncing around here, I just want to thank everyone again for tuning in. And make sure and go to steel-highway.com to order a magazine. I see someone else just says that they put in... Oh, look at this. We even found a train. What timing? We got to back up a little bit and find the head end.
Was that South Park characters I saw on the side of that well car?
It might have been. We're going to roll the whole thing by. We'll get it here in a little bit. So this guy is going to be going south. So we have a private host in Neenah who just has a house right next to the yard. This is a private host also here in Stevens Point. And we have looks like a single GE, another CN100 unit. And then you see these CN containers. I think these are really neat. And I don't know is anybody creating those in the model world, those CN containers?
I think Walther's Seamaster has those available.
Okay. But
well,
otherwise... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's so interesting seeing the container trains like this, because you'll see how the containers seem like they have some organization to them. And then you see a good mix, and you'll see some empties. There's the guys. And then, you get see some more mixed stuff. I would love to know the organizational patterns behind intermodal, like when it comes to the yard and how it's getting distributed, learning more about those networks. I think that's really interesting how all of this stuff will go from all across the world through Wisconsin and then back again.
Right. Now we're getting into... So the head end was domestic shipping containers. Now we have international shipping. You see China shipping. There was a Hamburg Süd that went by, Maersk, CGM, more Maersk, Costco. These are definitely... So you had, in this case, wherever this got loaded, or maybe it was even two trains that got combined into one somewhere.
And I noticed these are all 40-footers, so is that standard for international shipping?
That's right, yep.
So then the 20-footers and 48 and 53-foot trailers, those are all local?
No, the 53s are the ones that are domestic. The 40s and 20s, because a lot of times you'll see two 20s with a 40 stacked on top.
Hold on a second. Do you see those twin stacks right there? Holy cow.
Hang on, I'm going to back up. I
actually had, I sold them in Monticello. I had a set of A-line, the twin stacks that were CSX patched for C-line. That wasn't, I'm sorry, I had to interrupt you. That is just way too cool. I would, oh man, I actually really want to catch those cars.
Yeah?
That would be, oh, look at that.
They'll be down in your backyard in a couple of hours. They're going by Stevens Point right now, or just did anyway.
Yeah, no, I will, I might actually have to stop out and see if I can catch those. That is too cool.
Yeah. So, back to your question, the 53-foot containers are the ones that, you'll see one long container sometimes on top of a short one. That's a 53 on top of a 40. And they do load them that way sometimes. But the 53s are the ones that are designed, for instance, to go domestic. They don't go overseas at all. The 40s and 20s are the ones that go for overseas shipping. And some of these, you can see just how small the container is compared to the 53-foot well that they're sitting in. They're obviously too small. They just use whatever well car that they had available to load it into.
Yeah. Now, something I saw recently, and I wish I would have had a camera out. I'm not a very good rail fan when I'm in traffic.
Yeah.
But just like these containers here, right? Or the smaller well cars, the 40-foot only.
Yes.
I've only ever done it as a modeler to fit 53-foot containers, but where you've got the 40s like this, you don't have any in one car, and then you've got a 40 and a 53, and then nothing in the next car because you'd have the swing from the 53. I had never seen that in the real world until last week, and I saw that, and I was like, well, now I don't feel bad at all.
Yeah, we've actually seen them go by the cameras where they'll load every other car to avoid having the 53-foot containers hit each other when they overhang the ends of those 40s, the 40-foot wells.
Yeah.
Yes.
And another thing that was really interesting, once I moved to Waukesha, we moved at the beginning, just before COVID. We moved in the fall of 19, and spent a lot of time rail fanning on Grand Avenue. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's the CN main line that we're seeing here, and where Wisconsin Southern comes on, and then I forget where they step off, but I would sit there at, between 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. and you'd see Wisconsin Southern, you'd see the CN Rock train coming from New Plainville heading south. You'd see some really different stuff. And I just remember seeing just the most interesting intermodal combinations.
All right. So we're going to have a northbound going by this time. And another, one unit on the head end. That last one wasn't a one unit wonder. It's that was just a 1x1. But here we've got Richardson, some potash cars. It looks like that this is Agrium. Yeah, this is potash. So this is going back out to Western Canada to get reloaded. And then these short hoppers. So we see a lot of these short tankers, I'm sorry. They're loaded with syrup, corn syrup down here because we have a huge corn processing facilities here around Cedar Rapids. And because that syrup is so dense and heavy that you see them loaded into short hoppers short tankers instead of the long ones. And then these really long tankers with the long catwalk on the top, I believe that those carry gas. They'll carry like propane or LNG sometimes.
Yeah, I see those down at the Port of Milwaukee and stuff. Now here are the cars that I think Otter Valley just did.
Oh, these TTX boxes?
No, the trash and scrap guns.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was just ahead of this cut of boxcars that went by.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think there's a little bit of a lag in the video from what you're seeing and what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that could be. That could very well be.
I'm really going to miss those cylindrical hoppers. I remember when CP would park strings of them in Sturtevant along Highway 11, and we would, of course, walk from a safe distance, not on railroad property, and take some really cool pictures.
Of course. Never set foot on railroad property.
Always getting permission from local landowners.
Right.
But, it's too bad they tore that line up. It was really kind of a unique place to watch trains when I was a little kid.
All right, so we got some more comments here. Let's see what we got. Oh, I didn't know this. Hamburg Sud is actually now a maritime fallen flag. I had no idea.
Whoa.
It's actually more appropriate because they actually use flags on ships. It's not like the metaphor of a fallen flag for a railroad.
Yeah.
But thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Prince Rupert, Canada to Port of New Orleans, direct route. So there's one of those patched CITX units that the CN purchased.
City Rail.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if Scale Trains does those with the patches. I got a good feeling.
Yeah.
CM detector. 251.6.
Oh, there's the defect detector going off. So what else do we have for comments here? Alan Hunt is our resident train symbol expert. And he said the train was Q198. That was the intermodal train that we watched go by, going east. Or going south, as you will. And then, yes, no problem. Happy to share the knowledge.
Excuse me.
45 and 48 footers. We don't see those very often. Usually you see 40 and 53 footers, and that's really just about it. All right. Hey, MT Railfan, I assume that's Montana Railfan. He upgraded his membership. Thank you very much for doing that. We do, we have the memberships active here on the Steel Highway Rail webcam channel now, and so you can support the channel by purchasing a membership to support us monthly. All right, we're going to jump down to East Dubuque. And we're going to go back to 955 at East Dubuque and see this NS 4004 go by. Oh, that's way too early. I jumped back to 6:57 in the morning. Hang on. 8:55.
Oh, there's a lot of track there. Holy cats.
Oh, yeah. So, I guess if you haven't been to East Dubuque before, this is... So there's 5 tracks here. There's 2 main lines of the BNSF Aurora sub. This is the same line that goes from St. Paul to La Crosse down to Savannah and into Aurora, Illinois.
Okay.
So you've got 2 main lines. You've got a center siding, and then you've got car storage tracks on. Usually Maintenance Away a lot of times uses this track that's closest to the camera. And sometimes they set out bad orders there as well. And then that farthest track over, so the CN has trackage rights over here because they run over the BNSF from East Dubuque to Galena Junction or Portage.
Okay.
And so if they do interchange over here in East Dubuque, a lot of times they will use this set out track over here on the way far side to interchange cars. So we need to jump ahead to 955. But yes, this is a fairly busy artery on the BNSF, and then it hosts CN trackage rights as well.
Okay. So you said the center track, the one in the middle, is technically the passing siding?
That's right. It's a center siding. Yep.
Okay.
And then the second track from us and the fourth track from us are actually mains 1 and 2.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I suppose it makes it a little bit more convenient if you've got to pass on one side or the other.
Well, any trains that use the CN to get through the tunnel and over the drawbridge into Dubuque, Iowa, they have to be on this, I think it's main 1, that's the second track from us.
Okay. And you can see the different size rail.
Yeah.
That 2 and 4 are definitely heavier rail.
Uh-huh. So we've got the gates coming. There it is. There's that NS 4004.
Nice.
Look at that beauty. Taking some notes here for your next modeling project.
Oh, hey, is that an SD60 or SD50?
It's not an SD50. That is the 5414. I believe that's an SD70. But let me just look here quick. CN 5414. Pictures of CN 5414. And it is an SD60. I apologize. Yep, it's an SD60.
Well, either way, no matter which one you pick, it's a less common catch, I feel like, at least from my experience.
Oh yeah, those standard cab EMDs they're a dying breed. There's no other way to describe it.
Are they getting rebuilt or are they getting scrapped?
No, they're just getting retired. Yeah, a lot of them go to short lines and live a second life there. Yeah, SD60. So, yes, this is our... So this guy he's going through here real slow. Oh, there's an IC grain hopper. Look at that. IC 3-bay grain hopper. You don't see very many of those. 2 of them in a row.
You can see one's had a little bit harder life than the other.
Yeah, yeah, it has. Yeah, it has.
There's another one.
Uh-huh. You see, that's the color that I most commonly know them to be in, is that kind of almost off-colored grayish tan color. And then the Canadian spelt with an E, Canadian spelling of Canadian, on the grain hoppers there. So let's see here. We have some more comments to catch up on. Alan Hunt said we had an M343 go by. Yep. And yeah, Ferromex is partly owned by UP. I guess I should have specified that. And corn syrup, yep, corn syrup hoppers, wholesome foods, gotcha. All right, Trempealeau westbound at 8:09:13. Well, we might have to jump over to that next. Thank you, M Helium, for sharing that with us. And Ian, yep. Zach Bovitz, thanks. Yep, G8877-1 on the Iowa Northern at Waterloo. All right, good to know. And oh yeah, former Oakway on the BN. Interesting. That's definitely
cool.
something that you don't catch very often. All right, so we are going to jump over to. So this guy. The reason he's going so slow is because he's taking the turnouts to go through the East Dubuque Tunnel, and then they curve around through a tunnel, then go over two diamonds with the two BNSF mains, and then over the drawbridge, and then into Dubuque.
Okay.
So that whole thing is it's all a 10-mile-an-hour process to weave your way through there.
Holy cow. And that train's how long?
Yeah, exactly. You were talking about your precision scheduled railroading. You do that for 2 miles of a train. There's an ICG hopper with, I guess, I don't know if that's even really patched, but it's CN reporting, or ICG reporting marks, but it's got the CN logo on it.
There's another IC. This has been a good train for Illinois Central.
Yeah, it has. Definitely has. And
there we go.
There's some Razor, do you think?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Look at that. Was that ICG?
Yeah, the big block ICG letters were kind of fading through the repaint job. They had painted
That's
over
cool.
them, and they're starting to fade through again.
I love it. I love when you see stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
It's like it's fighting its way out.
Right. It's trying to show us who it was, but not quite there yet. The rest of these, it looks like a bunch of private hoppers, these NDYXs, FURX.
So is this just a large grain train, or is this...
No, this is this had some manifest on the head end. Now, it might be an empty grain train that they stuck 15, 20 cars of manifest on the head end. That's possible.
Gotcha.
But yeah, this is, especially with all these private hoppers here toward the rear. It definitely, there's a grain train here to be found, yes. But because of precision scheduled railroading, we can't leave anything alone. We have to add cars to every train that goes anywhere. But yeah, CNIC pool of hoppers, that's right. So, we are going to jump over to this timestamp that they gave us in Trempealeau. Okay, they're saying it's a G887. So that would be an empty grain train going out toward Fort Dodge, or toward Waterloo anyway. And we will go over, and our last stop today is going to be in Trempealeau. And here it is. So, thank you to all of our hosts that we featured today. We had Nina, Stevens Point, both private hosts. We had the East Dubuque is the car repair shop down there. And now we're at the Trempealeau Hotel. And we're going to jump back to 8:08 this morning. And, you know, you want to talk about a little bit of modeling. If you ever want to model like a bridge project that's coming up on your line, they've got all these concrete boxes sitting here that I'm assuming are going to turn into a bridge replacement project sometime this summer. So we are going to, let's see here. Oh, we're only at 8:06. I was reading that wrong. We got to jump ahead just a little bit more. And what was my timestamp? Who put the timestamp in here? I know I saw one for Tremplo. 8:09. Okay, 8:09:13. So we do have to jump ahead just a little bit further. So this one, you know, when you talk about cameras with a beautiful view, right? Looking out here across the upper Mississippi River Valley. Yeah, this one is definitely one of my favorites. I make no bones about that.
Now, is this outside of Fond du Lac?
No, this is on the Mississippi River. This is at Tremplo, Wisconsin. So it's clear over on the opposite side of the state. We're looking toward Minnesota on the other side of the camera here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Prairie du Chien is what I was thinking.
Oh, Prairie du Chien. We are west or north of Prairie du Chien, as you will.
Okay.
Looks like we had a GEVO and an SD70 there on the head end. And, yeah, another container train early in the morning. It'll be nice when we get some green on the leaves there as a background.
Yeah, I bet you this summer it'll just be beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. If you squint really hard, what do you see?
I was just going to point out the spine cars there. I don't see those very often over here. I never see them on CN or CP.
Oh, no, we see those on BNSF and UP much more frequently. Yep. And the CCL or OCCL cars, these are all 40-foot shipping containers, but I don't know that I've ever seen this big of a streak of them or this big of a cut of them all together. That was interesting.
Well, I think, if I recall correctly, before the board passed the merger with Kansas City Southern and Canadian Pacific, I believe they were going to experiment with a refrigeration train going from Mexico in the southern United States, basically going up through Chicago, Wisconsin, and into Canada to move, refrigerated goods and fresh goods more efficiently. And I wonder if that's BNSF trying to help answer that question before it gets solved.
Maybe. Oh, there's an H1. Look at that. We got an H1 DPU there.
That was a great catch.
Yeah.
Thanks for the reference on that one.
And this was a Chicago to Tacoma intermodal train, it looks like. So, all right. Well, we're going to wrap it up for today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Adam, for being here with me today. And make sure everybody check out the Facebook page for the New Berlin Train Show. Adam, any parting thoughts for us before we go?
No, I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity on here. Thanks for showing me some new stuff, answering some questions, because, again, I do more of the modeling stuff. I just go rail fanning once in a while when I've got time, but this was a real great experience. And thank you again. I look forward to having you guys at the swaps and the show and getting to meet you in person. If I can get down there before we get the show in November, I'd love to do some rail fanning with you. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will be back Wednesday night at 9 p.m. We are going to be here with Adam Kaczynski from Ditch Light Productions on Wednesday night. So pretty excited about that too. So, all right. Shawn, you have a fantastic rest of your day. And hopefully you'll have a chance to tune in with us Wednesday night also. And we'll catch you later.
All right. Thanks again.